Is morality different for different cultures? The answer is yes, but also maybe not. If we ask the question, is morality different for different cultures, there are two different questions we might be asking. We might mean, do people's beliefs about morality differ across cultures? Or we might mean, does morality itself, the moral truth, differ across cultures? And these are two very different questions. Let's take the first question first. Do people's beliefs about morality differ across cultures? The answer to this question seems to be a clear yes. Different cultures have different beliefs about morality. Call this view descriptive relativism. For example, some Inuit tribes used to practice infanticide. When under economic pressures, they would leave newborn infants out in the cold to die. And this practice doesn't appear to have been condemned by their culture. However, such a practice in modern-day Western culture would not be tolerated. Another example is the practice of killing and eating cows. This practice is condemned by many in Indian culture, but not so much in Western culture. Of course, we're speaking in generalities here. There isn't going to be universal agreement within any particular culture. But the important point is that broadly speaking, cultures have different beliefs about morality. So, is morality different for different cultures? The answer is yes, as long as we're simply talking about what people happen to believe about morality in those cultures. But now let's look at the second question. Does morality itself, the moral truth, differ across cultures? According to the anthropologist Ruth Benedict, the answer to this question is also yes. This view is called moral relativism. More specifically, it's a version of moral relativism that's called cultural relativism. According to Ruth Benedict, when we say something is morally wrong, that just means that it is condemned by our culture. Similarly, when we say that something is morally right, that just means that it is approved by our culture. So according to cultural relativism, morality itself differs across cultures, because morality itself is nothing more than cultural approval or disapproval. Now that we know what cultural relativism is, we can ask, is cultural relativism true? Is morality nothing more than cultural judgments? That's a tough question, but we should be careful not to make a particular mistake when we think about this. It's tempting to think in the following way. People in different cultures have different beliefs about morality. Therefore, morality itself, the moral truth, is different for each culture. And morality is simply a matter of cultural judgment. This is saying that descriptive relativism is true, therefore moral or cultural relativism is true. But that's not a good argument. Just because cultures disagree about something does not mean that there is no objective fact of the matter. Consider an analogy. According to some cultures, reading tea leaves is a good way to predict the future. According to other cultures, reading tea leaves is not a good way to predict the future. Does it follow from this disagreement that there's no objective fact of the matter? Of course not. People and cultures might disagree, but it seems that there is still an objective fact about whether reading tea leaves is a good way to predict the future. Similarly, perhaps descriptive relativism is true, and cultures disagree about morality. It doesn't automatically follow that cultural relativism is true, that there is no objective fact about morality. So in conclusion, according to descriptive relativism, different cultures have different beliefs about morality. According to moral or cultural relativism, there is no objective morality, and morality itself depends on one's culture's approval or disapproval. Descriptive relativism is true. And moral or cultural relativism might be true, but it's not automatically true simply because descriptive relativism is true.